City downtown.
Survivalist, heroic as a tigeress. Earn my stripes cause you know I'm do or die with this. Journey started young, super hard-headed.
I've always had a strange obsession with character select screens. I can't really explain why, but they've always had a strange hold on me. I think that they are really underappreciated parts of games, and it can be a big boon or hindrance when it comes to a game's presentation. It's a screen that you will see possibly hundreds or thousands of times depending on what the game is and how much you play it. In my opinion, it's really important that this screen makes a lasting impact on the player. In this video, I don't really have a thesis or some kind of statement that I want to make about character select screens. I just want to show my appreciation for some of my favorite character select screens, and maybe dog on some that I don't necessarily like. I will mainly be talking about fighting games in this video, but there will be some other games that I will mention. Also, I apologize in advance if I don't talk about a game that has a character select screen that you like, because I'm only going to be talking about games that I have played. So, sorry about that in advance. I think there's really only one rule when it comes to making a character select screen. One rule that every single game should follow, but some don't for reasons that are beyond me. And I think that rule is that every single character on the roster should be on screen at once. It's a pretty simple rule, but I see it broken more often than I care to see. There are obviously exceptions to this rule, like if you have a game with an absolutely massive roster, such as Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, it's just really not feasible to have every single character in the roster on screen at once in a game like that, because there's so many of them. But some games really just have no excuse for it. I think there are a ton of small things that can enhance a character select screen and enhance the atmosphere of the game. The overall presentation is something that I think a lot of players can overlook, but it'll subconsciously affect your mind and your mood. Or maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, who knows. Some of these small things that I think can enhance a game's mood include really good music. You can make the roster, like the layout, look really cool, make the characters look cool, or just, set the mood for the game. All of these small things can add up and go a long way. The little things are often the most underappreciated, but they can do the heaviest lifting. I'm going to start getting more specific here. We're starting off with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, a game that I am very bad at. Overall, this is a pretty simple select screen, but I think it does a lot right. The music is phenomenal, but that's a Marvel tradition at this point. I really like the comic book presentation of the roster. It's just, it fits with the theme. I love the announcer and like the random shit that he says when you boot it up. He's like, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the ultimate assembly of heroes, and some other random shit like that. I don't know what it is. He just really adds to it. Like that's your hype man. You're about to go pro at EVO. That's your hype man right there. The only real complaint that I have about it is that it's kind of static. The only thing on screen that moves is the ticker at the bottom that just tells you the controls. That's really just like a minor nitpick compared to everything else that this selection screen does right. I'm just a sucker for it, because it's Marvel 3, man. You can't be mad at it. Next, let's do Street Fighter 6, another game that I'm very bad at. Once again, a really good character select screen. Capcom usually has a pretty good track record for these kind of things. I think the best thing that this select screen does is showing off the characters. Just looking at them, you can immediately get a feel for each character, what their deal is, what kind of playstyle they might have, their personality. There's a ton of small details in these animations that really go a long way into selling these characters to the player. I think when you're playing a fighting game for the first time, that first impression that the character roster leaves on the player is super important, and this game is amazing at that. The sound design is another really good aspect. I like how when you initially enter the mode, like a 1v versus mode for example, the stage select appears with a more toned down version of the character select theme, but when you pick your stage and the character roster appears, the song ramps up. I like the announcer's voice when you pick a character in a stage. It really makes you feel like you're playing as a legend, but maybe that's just me. I think the most controversial thing in this video that I'm going to say is that the song that plays during the character select screen is not that bad. It's corny, but I think it works with what Capcom was trying to go for with this game. I will agree with the opinion that Street Fighter 6's soundtrack is terrible, because it is. But that's a can of worms for another day. Before I end this section, though, there's another little detail that can really add to a character select screen. I think it's something that Street Fighter 6 does extremely well. That is the layout of the roster itself, where the characters are like positioned at amongst each other. This part might just be me talking out of my ass, but I think everybody on this roster is exactly where they should be, if that makes sense. All 8 of the original World Warriors are here, and in the same layout as they were in Street Fighter 2. The new characters are right at the top, and the game defaults to Luke and Jamie when you boot up the Versus mode, so you can see them right away. Juri, DJ, and Cammy aren't the World Warriors, but they aren't New Blood either, so they're kind of caught in the middle between the two, which maybe could like represent how much they've changed or something. They've changed a lot, especially DJ, who, let's be honest, dude, DJ's an entirely new character from how he was in like Street Fighter 4, for example. Another really small detail, but I love how DJ taps on the drum and dances in beat with the character selecting. I just think that's a really cool detail. Also, I know I said that the last part was going to be the last part of this section, but I really like how each character in the roster portrait is facing the same way. Something about that just really soothes my brain, and I don't exactly know what it is. Now let's do a personal favorite of mine, Mortal Kombat X. The more I reflect on this game, the more I appreciate it. I was going to go on a whole rant about NRS and WB nowadays, but I'm not going to do that. I'll save that for my brain. That's not what this video is about. As I'm typing this script, there are a few trappings that this character select screen has that I will take note of, but I can't be mad at it, just because I'm like really biased towards this game, honestly. I love this game to death, so I'll try my best. The best thing I think this character select screen does, much like Street Fighter 6, is showing off the characters, what they're about, their personality, and all that. For example, Ferritor, my main, when you move the cursor and select them, you can pretty much get what they're all about just from their walk-up alone. And that goes for pretty much every character on the roster. The atmosphere is great too. I love how everybody looks in this game. I love how dark the game is. If you ask me, this is what Mortal Kombat should be about. Dark and stupid and edgy, but so sincere about it. The music isn't really anything to write home about. But then again, when has Mortal Kombat ever had good music, apart from like the theme song from the 90s? The layout of the roster is kind of weird. I get what's going on with the top row. Everybody and their counterparts. Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Kitana, Mileena, the Combat Kids and their relatives, but what's going on with the bottom row? Why is Kano next to Shinnok and Johnny Cage? Why is Kotal Khan in the very middle? It's kind of all over the place, but I like all of the guest characters being there in their own little corner, and the non-guest DLC characters being in their own little corner. I just think that's kind of funny. Let's do one now that I'm not particularly fond of. Samurai Showdown 2019. SNK, what are we doing here, guys? The one thing that I can give this game is that the song that plays during this select screen is a fucking banger. Like, even as I'm recording this, it's in my head right now. It's just going... It's just hard as fuck. I don't know what else to say. But, let's get right into it. The immediate thing that should be obvious is that this character select screen breaks my one rule for character select screens, and that is not everybody is available on the screen at once. And they do it in the ugliest way possible, too. They split it so that player 1 has their own character roster, and player 2 has their own character roster. And I just don't think it looks good at all. I don't know why they couldn't just do it like every other fighting game that has ever existed ever, and just have one roster, and both players move around it. It's just, I don't know why, but switching between one character roster and another just greatly upsets me. I don't know why. I don't know why this upsets me so much. It just does. But the most egregious part of this is the DLC roster. Just the way it's laid out. Like, why is Baiken sitting by herself in her own row? This probably wouldn't be an issue if, you know, there was just one character roster that we didn't have to switch between. Another thing I have an issue with is that it's very static. There's nothing moving here except like little effect particles that flutter around the screen. Also, this is just a really minor nitpick, but I think it's annoying how when you pick a character and it gives you the option to choose a color, you move it around between the colors, but it doesn't show you what the color looks like. It just gives you a different, like, hue behind the character. So you just kind of have to hope it looks good when you load into the game. I'm just really disappointed in this character select screen. Mainly because the music is really good. But, like, that's the only thing I can give it, is the music is really good. But this is probably, like, the worst example that we'll look at today. So, that's where your expectations should lie at. Let's do a bit of a newer example, for me at least, since this game just released on consoles. Darkest Dungeon 2. This game really surprised me by having a character select screen, considering the way the first game worked. Darkest Dungeon 1 is a really good game, by the way. You should play it if you hate yourself. I wasn't expecting the roguelite direction that this game has, but I think it works surprisingly well. But you didn't come here for a review of Darkest Dungeon 2, so let's talk about this character select screen. Like Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat X, this character select screen gives you a really strong first impression of each character just by looking at them. I think that's really like the best thing that a character select screen can do, is just give you an immediate first impression of the characters that leaves an impact, because, you know, you gotta pick someone, might as well pick someone that leaves an impact on you. That's why I keep bringing it up with basically every screen that I talk about, because I think that's the most important part. But you can just tell what they're about by looking at them, and if that's not enough, it just straight up tells you what they're good at. It gives you like, oh, this character's good at front rank, this character's a healer, this character's a tank, all that. I really like the music too. This game just has really good music. Like, just really dark, dreary, atmospheric, and like, but it's like kind of hopeful too. I love the way this game looks. Just, I don't know how they did it. They got some wizards over there at Red Hook. They just managed to perfectly translate the first game's art style into 3D models, and it's overall, it's a pretty simple character select screen, but everything it does right. I really don't have any faults with this one.
Who dares to enter the mayhem?
Guilty Gear is just the coolest fucking franchise ever, and this character select screen kind of speaks as to why that is. It's just very sincere. Everything here is just cool, doesn't give a fuck what you think. It's here for its own reasons, and it don't give a fuck what you think. All the characters look cool, the layout of the roster itself is cool, the random turning gears in the corner are cool, the music is fucking awesome. If you aren't playing Guilty Gear, specifically XR Rev 2, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're just not cool. It almost makes me a little disappointed with how Strive's character select screen looks. We go from this guitar shredding, ass kicking, cool roster of characters to something that kind of looks like it's a business PowerPoint for some fake ass company. It's really disappointing, honestly. The vibes and the aesthetics of the earlier games are so unique compared to Strive, honestly. Like, I honestly think it's kind of lost some of its identity. And I'm not trying to turn this into a Strive hate fest, because I do sincerely love Strive. But just compare Strive's select screen to Xr's select screen, or Accent Core's select screen, or literally any other Guilty Gear game. It's practically a night and day difference. And I'm sure that if I asked most people, they're gonna pick the older select screens. For the final part of this video, let's talk about Smash Ultimate. If I'm gonna be completely honest here, it's alright. It does the job it needs to do, but I wish it did a little more, considering it's Smash Bros. And these games generate infinite money. The two main things that I can give this select screen is that the music is phenomenal, but Smash games just always have phenomenal music for no reason. And the other thing I can give it is just the pure spectacle of seeing all of these legendary gaming characters on screen together, and it's not a Mugen or a weird Photoshop or a fan game. This is a real, official, licensed video game, and it is your God-given right to make Solid Snake fight Minecraft Steve. It's kind of... The select screen's kind of like utilitarian. The only thing that moves on the screen is your cursor and the weird splash effect that's going on behind all the characters, which is kind of neat, I guess. I just really wish they did more to accentuate that this is like the ultimate video game crossover, an ultimate celebration of all things video games. Because it does the job, but there's just not a lot here. It's pretty much like if you asked a robot, I think, to make a character select screen, this is what it would give you. So, yeah, that's really all I can say about it. It's basically alright. I have no idea how long this video is going to be after I compile all these clips together. So I'm going to end the video here, because I don't really want to make a 3-hour long video. But if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Let me know if there's any character select screens, any games that you're particularly fond of. Or don't. I don't care. I can't tell you how to live your life. Just remember to make sure that if you're making a video game and you have a character select screen, make sure you follow the one rule. And make sure you put all the characters on screen at once. Because if you don't, I'm going to find you. And I'm going to give you a stern talking to. Anyways, good night.